Hello everyone, it's Dr. Rafael Gutierrez, Dr. Karate. Welcome to my channel. As you notice, I have drawn a hand and I'm going to be talking about grabbing. And I know that there's a lot of different grabs and there's grabs for different reasons. I'm not going to go into all of them. I'm just going to go into grabbing things like a stick or a bow, or if you're into baseball or golf, all these things are going to be pretty roughly the same thing, even if you're grabbing at someone's arm, and I'll talk about that later. Now, there are actually some grabs that are used for other purposes. For instance, I remember when someone was showing me a throw, they told me to grab with my fingers in, so they wouldn't. So if I did throw someone, and my fingers wouldn't get caught on the gi. This is a little different than if you're grabbing an arm or a bow or something, because you're doing it for safety reasons, trying to make sure you don't break your hands. If you're grabbing, for instance, a wrist, you don't have to worry about it getting caught on clothing. If you're turning this way, and so that's a little different. Now, the other thing we need to talk about, and that is the muscles that are going to be in the hands. And I am going to mention a lot of this. Now, before I actually begin, though, I want to mention books. If you really want to understand grabs, if you really want to understand why you do certain things a certain way, you do want to actually look at anatomy, you want to look at kinesiology, and you also want to look at physics. And I will tell you that there's actually two books I tend to use quite a bit. One of them is Physics of Martial Arts. The other is The Science of Martial Arts. And both these books are actually really nice to go back to, in part because they're easier to understand than a lot of the college level physics books, and they have the same information. They tend to be brief, concise, and you can get the information you need pretty quick. So those are some of the ones I tend to use a lot. Now, as for the hands, if you actually look at your hand, there are some muscles inside the palm of the hand, lumbricals, and I'm not going to talk about those, which do help you have some movements of the hands. But there's actually two big areas where you see big amount of muscles. One is this area here next to the thumb. Use my hand here. And that's called your thenar eminence. And you have a lot of muscles that help pull the thumb a certain way, pull it the other way, pull it in. And I'm not going to talk about them except to let you know that, yes, you have a lot of muscles here that act on the thumb. The other area you have a lot of muscles is called the hypothenar. That's this area here, this lump on the side of the pinky. And almost all those muscles are used to flex and move the pinky around. So one of the things that you'll notice right away is you have more muscles in your pinky than in your other fingers. And this actually contradicts something that some people have talked about, in part because I've noticed that a lot of people don't necessarily read what they're supposed to. They read what people tell them and things that agree with them. Now, where are the muscles that move the fingers? Well, if you come to your hand here, you have a little bump here, a bone. It's called your medial epicondyle. Go back to the bones if you want to know more about it. And I want you to think of your thumb as a tendon. A tendon is something that connects muscles to bones. A ligament, again, is bone to bone. And you have a tendon going from the medial epicondyle, which is called the common flexor tendon. And it makes four muscles. The first one I'm not going to talk about too much. It just pretty much pulls over here, which is called the pronator teres. You have another one coming to your wrist, which is your flexor carpi radialis. One coming to your palm, which is your palmaris longus, and one coming across the side here, which is going to be your flexor carpi ulnaris, carpi being the carpals. Now, besides that, you also have other muscles which are going to be going under that, which are going to flex your fingers. Flexor digitorums, and you have your flexor pollicis and flexor digiti minimus. So you do have other muscles that are just for these two again. These tend to share the same muscles, and that's why there are certain things that are hard to do. For instance, this one does have a couple muscles that help extend it on its own. If you try to extend the other ones on their own, well, there's one move that everyone gets really good at because, especially when they're driving. But if you try to do the ring finger, you'll notice how hard it is to keep it up with the other ones coming down. And that is because it takes time to actually learn to do the little signs. And then if you notice, it's the ring. So you have more control and more muscles to these two. The third one would be the pointer finger. That's why you can do all these little movements on it. So we have more muscles. The more muscles you use, the more power you can develop. Now, a lot of people don't think about this. They will actually look and think, okay, I'm going to grab something with all my fingers like this, and you'll see the pinky is almost kind of just hanging out. So you're actually losing a lot of musculature by doing this. The other thing that's happening is if you do hold your hands like that, your stick would actually go in a straight line. So it would be roughly from here to here. If you think about it, it's about the size of the functional unit of this pen. If, on the other hand, we actually use a pinky, what we end up doing is we end up bringing the stick from here to more of an angle. You'll notice if I grab like this, you'll notice that there's more control, more pinky use. You'll also notice that here, you're only actually locking with 2 fingers. When you come here, you're actually locking with a lot more. You're also noting the ulnar deviation, which I talked about. You think about the flexor carpi ulnaris. We'll pull this way. And you do have a space here, which I made that a little bigger for a reason. You have more space here than on the radial side. And so most of the movements will be here. So we have more area being used of the stick being used when you actually come here than here. It also does give you a little bit more of a mechanical advantage because you're actually putting force here, producing a little torque here from not just this finger, the pinky, but also from the flexor carpi ulnaris, which is again pulling this way. Now, I'm really big on people doing peer review. And you can actually go and look up the science if you want. I actually recommend, again, 2 books. There's a lot more that will actually deal with the angles for physics. But I also want you to take another idea. I want you to try this on yourself. Not on yourself, but with someone else. Find someone bigger than you. And what I want you to do is have them stick out their wrist and grab their wrist, first using the method here, where you're going across the finger and grabbing mostly here, and the pinky is kind of floating off. Then do the same thing, but even point if you want, and hold it between the pinky and thumb here. Again, look at what you're doing, and see if you have more or less control. Ask them where they feel that you had more control. Also, have them do it on you. See if it's easier if they're grabbing you like this, or if they're grabbing you like this. Remember, tight, and remember to tell them to think of the pinky or the index finger when they're doing this. Now, I actually do love a lot of these. I do love making these videos. To me, it's entertaining and fun, and I do love books, and I do have a lot of them. And I will mention, and I'm using and again, I will mention that some of the books I have were translated in different time periods. A lot of times, the ones that I find translated more modernly and more recently tend to be a little better. And the reason is there was just more stuff available to us. For instance, we have translation tools now which are easier to use. It's still a pain to use. I try to translate certain works and I gave up. My girlfriend tried to translate some work and she almost gave up. She actually speaks Romanian and English, and so that was one of the things she was trying to do. And yeah, so a lot of times when people translate stuff, so I'm actually really happy that they do this. I'm actually willing to buy a lot of different things, especially when I find the author has done a lot of work and is respected in translation communities. But that doesn't mean that I don't like the old works. I mean, there was actually one review I did of a book saying this is the best version I found. Well, it's going to be because the guy had more access to the families. He had more access to translations. He had more access to tools that they didn't have 20 years ago. And I did actually do like one of the versions that I found of that other book. I won't mention that. But yeah, like I said, it's a lot of times these are beneficial for us. The other thing I'm going to actually mention is someone asked me a question that I thought was kind of odd, and it was if they could share these videos that I make. And I will say, you want to share these videos, please do so. It's actually, for me, you sharing this video really tells me that you are supporting the channel as much as you may think it may not be much, but Someone sharing the channel does a lot of things. One is it actually introduces a lot more people to science, the aspect of kinesiology, of anatomy, and how we can use it in martial arts, which is really the primary reason for the goal. The other, if you really want to support, you can actually look at stuff that I've written and put it, especially if you like it, put a review on Amazon, and that does bring me money, and it helps me support the channel. And that is one way you can do it. Now, I know that some people are not interested, so hey, you're not interested in work of fiction, relatively fiction, and fictionalized fact, I guess is what I should call it, because I used trips that actually did happen, and I added dreams and different ideas that came about to me. So these are two of the books I actually did write, and I am in the process of doing I don't know exactly what to call it, the title, but it's going to be the musculoskeletal kinesiology of the human body for martial arts. Kind of a long title. I'll find out what I can actually name it later. And it will use kinesiology, it'll use anatomy, it'll use physiology. And once I finish, I'm going to let everyone know. I hope you enjoy this and have a nice day. Oh, and actually, before I go, there was one other experiment I wanted you to try. And that is pulling something back. I want you to use against someone else, and I'm going to stand for now, and pull. Trying to bring your elbow so it doesn't show up, and push. And see not just the rotation here. Don't worry, there's two ways I want you to pull back. One is coming here, and one is coming here. And I want you to look at not just the elbow, but the bones of the forearm when you come this way and when you come this way. Ask people, and let me know which way you feel and they feel it is less movement and more natural for you. I will discuss actually the pulling and pushing at the forearm level later. I hope you enjoy this, and if there's any questions, please feel free to write them. Have a nice day.